Hello everybody and welcome back to the flight deck. I've been asked a few times about where to find certain information on charts and how to look up certain things for takeoff and landing and how to get around the airports. So I decided I would do a series of tutorial videos that would show you where to find information on the different charts that we use when flying in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and more specifically when flying on VATSIM. Now, a couple points to make out before we start. I am not a trained IFR pilot. My flying was only ever done VFR, so I've never been formally trained on how to read and interpret these charts. But I have learned from real pilots. I have learned from years of simming experience and reading through them and asking questions. So this is how I read them and the information I get from them. I may not know everything that's on these charts, but I know enough to get by in the sim, and I know where to find, pretty much all of the information you're going to need to successfully fly in Flight Sim and on VATSIM as well. So we're going to break this series up into a number of parts. We'll cover the charts that you use when you're at an airport for both your departure and arrival procedures on the ground. We'll do another one on your departure. We'll do one on the arrivals, and then another one for a typical ILS landing. As I am from the Toronto area, we will be using the charts from Pearson International Airport, the big major Toronto airport. So the information, it will be specific to that airport. However, the general layout and everything is identical for airports around the world. So I hope you find this interesting and informative. If you do, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button on the videos. Leave a comment below if you want more of these types of tutorials. I always take that into consideration when coming up with these ideas, and we will take a look at doing them moving forward. So without further ado, let's get into this video. So let's say now you're flying along, you're coming to Toronto, you're on the airway, everything's going good. You have to start prepping for your arrival. Well, for Toronto, there's certain things that can help you. And these are overviews of the airport that you can use to reference to get an idea of what you're coming into. The first of these are some pictures and stuff, so you'll be able to recognize the airport as you fly into it. So on the first page here, you can see we've got kind of a map and photos of the airport, and we'll take a quick look at what the information contained here is. So at the top, as per usual, it gives the airport identifier, the airport name, the chart number, the date of the chart, and you can see it says airport familiarization. This is to give you a little bit of an idea of where we're headed. The next section we've got lit up gives you certain information. So it says caution, high risk of runway incursions, primary class C airport, no sensitive areas, gives you the airport elevation, tells you roughly where it is, adjacent West Toronto, gives you the latitude and longitude, and then there's also a minimum safe altitude diagram just to give you a quick overview of the minimum safe altitude for the quadrants around the airport. Under that, you'll see a photo. Now this is tied to the diagram below, but this is showing you, because we're going to be landing on one of the westerly facing runways, this is giving you kind of a look in the way you're going to be coming in to show you how the ground looks around the airport. And then when we go to the next section here, it shows you where that view is from, gives you all the runway headings, the major highways, so you've got a kind of an idea of the area you're flying into. On the next page here, it gives you a little bit more information about the runways, some text describing certain things that you're going to need to know, and certain remarks about the weather, rainfall, snow, just so you can have an idea of what you're heading into. And in this case, we're coming in on runway 23. It's also going to provide a photo of what it should look like as you're approaching the runway, so you can make sure that this is the actual runway you're lined up with. And again, you have the information in the top section we found on the first page. Shows you a photo of the runway and the business areas at the end of the runway where you're coming in, and then underneath a little bit of text about the runway itself. Tells you about where the PAPI is, tells you that the PAPI is set up for an aircraft with a eye to wheel height of 45 feet, tells you there's a displaced threshold, but gives you a number of usable feet or meters that the runway has. So now we'll take a look at the star for this airport. We're coming in on runway 23, and we're going to be doing the NACBO for arrival to runway 23. Now let's say that on our airway, our final point coming in on our direction of travel from Chicago, we're coming in on money. So that is our last waypoint before we transition into the star. Star stands for Standard Terminal Arrival. So this is the standard approach that aircraft are going to be using. So everyone coming in from the direction that you're coming in will be coming in the same way. So we'll take a look at the chart here. Again, at the top section, you can see airport identifier on the left, airport name, and on the right, information. It says it's an RNAV star. The date of publication, 14 June 2019. Has an effective date of 20 June 2019, chart number 10-2E2, and it's a Jepson chart. So this would be confirmed between the pilot flying and the pilot non-flying, if it's a two-man cockpit crew. And you would have whoever was doing the briefing say, I am using that chart number, what the approach is, and the date. And then the other person would confirm that they are looking at the same chart. Very crucial because things do change. The next section down gives you some information. You can see it's got ATIS information listed below. Airport elevation, which you're going to need. Gives you certain other information in the middle section. Talks about safe altitudes. Again, non-jet aircraft only. So this would again be used by turboprops. And it gives you things you're going to need to know about the approach. And the next block's over on the right tells you the name of the approach. So it's the NACBO for arrival. And you can see next to it, it says Noombar for Bravo. And then underneath for runways, 23, 24 left, and 24 right. Now down at the bottom here, this is the area that's not to scale. So again, a lot of these charts will stretch out quite far, but in order to make sure that we can read everything, some of it will not be to scale. So it gives you the distances, it gives you the hold points, it gives you your entry points, and it gives you your restrictions. So you can see there's like a few entry points here. You've got Yasmin, you've got Money, you've got Query, you've got Fingal. They're all in there. So these will be points where aircraft will be coming in. It gives you directions. So every waypoint direction or heading from one point to the next is listed. And it also gives you the distance between. So if you look at Money, the way we're coming in, the next waypoint on the approach is Shot, S-H-H-O-T. So above the line, it tells you the direction you're going, and it says 092. So that's 092 degrees. You'll be traveling in that eastward direction, and underneath it says Money, and then it gives you the Money NACBO 4. So that's the way you're coming in on this one. And then it says 34 underneath it. So Money point NACBO 4. Money is your entry point. NACBO 4 is your arrival. 34 means 34 nautical miles between those 2 points. Now if you look at the next leg, Shot to PNLTY. So again, Toronto's a hockey town. So there's Shot, Penalty, and Box all listed up. A little bit of humor there. But between Shot and Penalty, you can see it's 92 degrees. There's 36 miles. But you can see the little diagram there with the little loop. That's a hold point. So if they were going to put you into a hold, you can expect to be put into a hold at that point. There's another one over at
you could expect to be put a hold. And it shows you the direction of the hold.
You can see the little on the it loops to the top, and there's the arrow, and it gives you the reciprocal heading. So 272 is the heading you would take if you're doing it. It would be a standard rate 1 turn in the hold, and then it would be a 1 minute leg, and then you'd do a rate 1 turn around and back to pilot for as long as they told you to, or you had to tell them we were running out of fuel. But you would follow this down, each one as you come in, and once you get to number, that's the main point where all of these entry points all converge at number, and you come all streaming in onto the one line in for Toronto. You can see at App-Dex and Fingal there are altitude restrictions. That's what the blue numbers mean underneath. So the under App-Dex, FL230 means flight level 230, which is 23,000 feet. And the line above says you must be below 23,000 feet. For Fingal, FL190, flight level 190, 19,000 feet, you must be below 19,000 feet at that point. If the line was below, you have to be above. So if it said FL190 at Fingal, but the line was underneath, it would say, that would mean you have to be above 19,000. You cannot be below. And you would follow this course all the way down. Now, once you move into the next section, this is the to scale part, and this gives you the actual final legs of the star. So you can see the first waypoint after everything comes together at number is Rocktoe. Now Rocktoe has two numbers, blue numbers, and lines top and bottom. So to read this, you look at the top and it says 10,000, so that's 10,000 feet because we're under transition altitude, which is 18,000. So we go from flight levels to thousands of feet. But the line's on top, so that means we have to be under 10,000. But under that, it says 8,000 with a line underneath. So that means we have to be between 10,000 feet and 8,000 feet. That's our window. So we carry on down to Pengo. And because we're going in on runway 23, we're going to want to go to the north side of the airport because that's where runway 23 is. So we would make that left turn at 45 degrees and head out to Manup. And at Manup, you can see there's an 8,000 and it has a line above and below. That means we have to be at 8,000 feet. You cannot be above 8,000 feet. You cannot be below 8,000 feet. But above that, in red, there's a speed restriction. It says at 210 knots. So, by Manup, we have to be slowed down to 210 knots, 210 knots, and at 8,000 feet. You may say max 210 knots, in which case you could be below 210, but you couldn't be above. But this one wants you at 210, so you cannot be slower, you cannot be faster. And you would follow it up, David, Levig, Mipip, and Satyr. Once you get up towards Satyr, you can see how it has those little dashed lines. That means you're going to get vectors from ATC, and they will tell you when to make the turn to the intercept to the runway. And if you look down, you can see runway 23 is the top one, and 24 right and 24 left are the bottom ones. You can see the arrows where the ILSs are. So this is the star standard terminal approach, and this is what brings you in to the airport. Now, there are different kind of approaches, which we'll get into towards the end, but we're just going to stick with the standard star and the standard ILS approach. But this gets you down from the airways on the arrival into the airport area. And in this case, you would be vectors to whatever type of approach you are doing. And the approaches will come a little bit later with their variety.